The Antonov and Tu-25 Maria was a strategic airlift cargo aircraft that was conceived and manufactured by the Antonov Design Bureau in the Soviet Union. It was initially created in the 1980s as an expanded version of the Antonov An-124 airlifter to facilitate the transportation of Buran spacecraft. The An-225 made its inaugural flight on December 21, 1988. Although only one aircraft was completed, a second airframe with a significantly different configuration was partially constructed. The plane was mothballed in the early 1990s after a limited period of use in the Soviet space program. The An-225 was reintroduced for commercial operations at the turn of the century to transport oversized payloads for Antonov Airlines. The second airframe's construction was largely put on pause due to a lack of funding, even though numerous announcements were made regarding its potential completion. According to reports, it had been completed to 60 to 70% by 2009. The An-225, which had a maximum takeoff weight of 640 tons, was the heaviest aircraft ever constructed and had the largest wingspan of any operational aircraft. It also held numerous records. It was frequently employed to convey objects that were previously considered untranslatable by air, including 130-ton generators, wind turbine blades, and diesel locomotives. Furthermore, the An-225 was the subject of distinct announcements by Chinese and Russian officials regarding its adaptation for their respective space programs. Due to its immensity and distinctiveness, the Maria consistently captivated the public, generating a global following. The Sol An-225 that was constructed was destroyed during the Battle of Antonov Airport in 2022 during the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, has announced that the second An-225 aircraft will be completed to replace the devastated one. In 1984, the Soviet government requested a large airlifter to replace the Myasishchov VMT. The Antonov An-225 was developed to meet this request, which required the aircraft to be capable of carrying a maximum payload of 231,838 kilograms, both internally and externally, while operating from any runway with a minimum length of 3,500 meters, 11,500 feet. The mission and objectives of the Soviet space program were in many ways identical to those of the United States shuttle carrier aircraft, as they were originally intended to transport the Energia rocket's boosters and the Buran-class orbiters. Additionally, the development process would necessitate a rapid pace due to the relatively brief timetable for the delivery of the completed aircraft. The Antonov Design Bureau developed a variant of the Antonov An-124 Ruslan airlifter that was already in production. The aircraft was expanded by the addition of fore and aft fuselage barrel sections, and a new enlarged wing center was designed to accommodate an additional pair of Progress D-18T turbofan engines, bringing the total number of power plants from 4 to 6. A new tail was also necessary to accommodate the wake disturbance produced by the bulky external loads that would be mounted on the aircraft's upper fuselage. The An-225's design was mainly conventional, despite the novelty of its scale. Viktor Tolmachev served as the principal designer of the An-225 and the An-124. The An-225 made its first public appearance outside the Soviet Union at the 1989 Paris Air Show, where it was presented transporting a Buran orbiter after performing its maiden flight on 21 December 1988. For the public days at the Farnborough Air Show, it executed a flight demonstration 1 year later. Although 2 aircraft were ordered, only one, An-225, was completed. This aircraft was capable of transporting ultra-heavy and oversized freight, carrying up to 250,000 kilograms. The upper fuselage can accommodate cargo that is as long as 70 meters. Work on the airframe was suspended following the Soviet Union's collapse, even though a second An-225 was partially constructed for the Soviet space program in the late 1980s. The necessity for additional An-225 capacity had become apparent by 2000. In September 2006, it was determined that the second An-225 would be completed, a feat that was originally scheduled to take place around 2008. Nevertheless, the project was subject to numerous delays. The aircraft had not been completed by August 2009, and the project had been abandoned. According to various sources, the second An-225 aircraft was 60 to 70% complete by 2016. Throughout its lifespan, the An-225 was the subject of numerous announcements and speculation regarding its potential return to space activities. A study was conducted in the early 2000s to investigate the production of an even larger An-225 derivative, the 8-engined Antonov An-325, which was intended to be used in conjunction with Russia's in-development MAX space aircraft. The Russian government announced in April 2013 that it intended to revive Soviet-era air launch projects. These projects would utilize a purpose-built modification to the An-225 as a mid-air launch pad. A BBC reporter was informed by Zhang Yusheng, the president of the Aerospace Industry Corporation of China, in May 2017, that AICC had initially considered collaborating with Antonov in 2009 and subsequently reached out to them 2 years later. AICC plans to modernize the second unfinished An-225 and transform it into an air-launch-to-orbit platform for commercial satellites at altitudes of up to 12,000 meters or 39,000 feet. The production restart was questioned by the aviation media, which speculated that the ongoing Russo-Ukrainian conflict would obstruct the delivery of a variety of essential components that would have been sourced from Russia. It is conceivable that China could manufacture them in their place. Antonov's parent company, Ukroboronprom, continued to pursue partnerships to complete the second airframe, even though the project did not progress. After being out of service for over a year, the first An-225 began a series of test flights from Hostomel Airport near Kyiv on March 25, 2020, to facilitate the implementation of a power management and control system that was domestically designed. The Antonov An-225 was a strategic transport cargo aircraft that shared numerous similarities with the An-124 airlifter from which it was derived. Its fuselage and cargo deck were extended by fuselage barrel extensions that were installed both forward and aft of the wings. Additionally, the anhedral wings were equipped with root extensions to enhance their span. The flight control surfaces were propelled by triple redundant hydraulics and were controlled via fly-by-wire. Additionally, the empennage of the An-225 was a tandem tail with an oversized, swept-back horizontal stabilizer, which was redesigned from the single vertical stabilizer of the An-124. The aircraft's ability to transport its bulky external cargo, which would have generated wake turbulence and disrupted the airflow around a conventional tail, necessitated the implementation of a twin-tail arrangement. The An-225 was equipped with 6 Progress D 18T turbofan engines, which was 2 more than the An-124. The redesigned wing root area facilitated the installation of these engines. A 32-wheel landing gear system with increased capacity was developed, some of which are steerable. This system allows the airlifter to navigate within a 60-meter-wide, 200 feet runway. The An-225, like its An-124 predecessor, featured a nose gear that was engineered to kneel to facilitate the loading and unloading of cargo. The cargo hold was equipped with 4 overhead cargo cranes that were capable of hoisting a maximum of 5,000 kilograms and could be moved along its entire length. These cranes were implemented to facilitate the loading and unloading process. Various mounting locations were located along the upper surface of the fuselage to facilitate the attachment of external loads, such as the Buran orbiter. In contrast to the An-124, the An-225 was not intended for tactical airlifting or short-field operations. Consequently, the An-225 lacks a rear cargo door and staircase, which are present on the An-124. These features were omitted to reduce weight. The cargo compartment was 1,300 cubic meters, 6.4 meters, 21 feet 0 inches, in width, 4.4 meters, 14 feet in height, and 43.35 meters, 142 feet 3 inches, in length, all of which were greater than the Wright Flyer's initial flight. The cargo compartment, which was equipped with extensive soundproofing and pressurization, could accommodate up to 80 standard dimension cars, 16 intermodal containers, or 250,000 kilograms, 551,150 pounds, of general cargo. Access to the flight deck of the An-225 was via a stairway from the lower deck, which was located at the front of the upper deck. Except for the presence of additional controls to regulate the additional pair of engines, this flight deck was substantially identical to that of the An-124. An array of compartments, including cots, was located at the rear of the flight deck. These compartments served as the crew stations for the aircraft's 2 flight engineers, navigators, and communication specialists, as well as off-duty rest areas that facilitated the execution of long-range missions. The An-225 was capable of flying non-stop across lengthy distances, such as the distance between New York and Los Angeles, even when completely loaded. The Buran program had been terminated, and the Soviet Union was no longer in existence by this time, resulting in the sole completed An-225 being left unused and without a purpose. 18. Antonov officials were openly discussing their intention to introduce the aircraft into commercial use as early as 1990. Despite this, the An-225 was eventually placed in long-term storage in 1994. During this period, the second uncompleted An-225 airframe was also stored, and all 6 of its engines were removed for use on numerous An-124s. As the 1990s progressed, it became evident that there was a sufficient demand for a cargo liner that was even larger than the An-124. Consequently, it was determined that the initial An-225 would be restored. The aircraft was re-engined, modified to enhance its compatibility with heavy cargo transport operations, and reintroduced into service under Antonov Airlines' supervision. It was the backbone of the Antonov Airlines fleet, transporting objects that were previously considered unattainable by air, including 130-ton generators, wind turbine blades, and diesel locomotives. Additionally, it proved to be a valuable asset to international relief organizations. Due to its capacity to rapidly transport substantial quantities of emergency supplies during numerous disaster relief operations, the An-225 was granted its type certificate by the Interstate Aviation Committee Aviation Register YACAR on 23 May 2001 under Antonov Airlines. Its inaugural commercial flight, which departed from Stuttgart, Germany, on 3 January 2002, was to Thumrait, Oman, where it transported 216,000 prepared meals for American military personnel stationed in the area. This substantial quantity of prepared meals was conveyed on 375 pallets and weighed 187.5 tons. The Canadian and U.S. governments subsequently contracted the An-225 to transport military provisions to the Middle East in support of coalition forces. The cost of transporting cargo by An-225 exceeded 2 million kroner. In 2004, a chimney conduit was transported from Billund, Denmark, to Kazakhstan via air transportation, costing approximately 266,000 euros. Antonov Airlines terminated its partnership with Airfoil in 2016 and instead formed a partnership with Volga Dnieper. The blue and yellow paint scheme of the An-225, which was implemented in 2009, was inspired by the colors of the Ukrainian flag. As the New York Times put it, the An-225 became Ukraine's winged ambassador to the world. On 24th February, the An-225 was reported to be unharmed. On 27th February, a photo was posted on Twitter of an object that was provisionally identified as the An-225, which was on fire in its hangar. Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba and Ukroboronprom, Antonov's parent organization, both reiterated that the aircraft was destroyed during the Battle of Antonov Airport, as reported by the Ukrainian edition of Radio Liberty. The Antonov company initially declined to corroborate or deny the reports, stating that it was still in the process of conducting an investigation. On 1st March, a new photograph was tentatively identified as the tail of the aircraft protruding from its hangar, suggesting that it remained at least partially intact. Additional evidence revealed that the aircraft is inoperable due to the severe damage it sustained. On the 3rd of March, a video circulated on social media displaying the aircraft burning inside the hangar alongside several Russian trucks, confirming its likely destruction. However, Antonov reiterated that the aircraft's official status could not be completely determined until it is inspected by experts. The first distinct ground images of the destroyed aircraft, with a significant portion of the front section missing, were broadcast on Russian state television Channel 1 on the 4th of March. Despite Russian artillery strikes on the hangar harboring the second unfinished aircraft airframe at the Antonov factory at Sviatoshin airfield, it was reported to be intact following Russia's withdrawal from northern Ukraine. On March 19, 2022, Major Dmytro Antonov, the pilot of the An-225, claimed that Antonov Airlines was aware of the impending invasion for an extended period. Failed to take any action to avert the aircraft's destruction. Antonov accused company management of failing to take sufficient measures to prevent the aircraft's destruction on his YouTube channel, despite NATO's recommendation to relocate the aircraft, which was in a state of readiness to fly, to Leipzig, Germany in advance. His allegations have been refuted by numerous Antonov personnel. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe for more updates, and drop a comment with your thoughts below. We'd love to hear from you.